Hi everyone, this is Saurabh here, part of Wipro HR team, and I'm really happy to spending time with Anish, who's a long friend, to share some of my thoughts in the forthcoming podcast.
We have a guest today who is very special. Um, Saurabh Govil did not need any introduction, but just those of you who don't know him, he's currently CHRO of Wipro Technology, and in the past, he's also has been on my boss during my ITC days, and he's worked with the other organization G as well. So he's got tons of experience, and I think today podcast will be more in terms of really learning from a giant leader who is got amazing years of experience and has seen multinational local companies, and then a company where he's working, which is an Indian multinational, which is a giant itself, right? So it's a pleasure to invite you, Saurabh, in our
Anish,
podcast.
Thank you so much for having me over. It's a pleasure.
And I think
I don't think so I'm worthy of the words you said, but I will try and share my journey.
No, I think as always, you're humble, and I think people when people say that humility is the starting point of leadership journey, and that's what it is. So I think you've had some great experience working with multiple organizations. You have really seen ITC, G, and now Wipro as well. And you've really seen industrial revolution. You've seen digital. Now AI is the new flavor nowadays, right? As well. What has remained the core, and what has really changed?
It's very interesting, and if I reflect, and it's been a 35-year plus journey, and I started, as you rightly said, in a factory setup, and we all were there together, and I was in those days back beyond in Bungair and places. Change from there and change today. I think the fundamentals of leadership haven't changed. That's my belief. The willingness to learn, willingness to stay curious, keenness to adapt. I think these are the fundamentals which have remained throughout. The context gets changed, but the fundamentals don't. And leaders who are willing to accept, because I'm a firm believer that all of us have to remain a student throughout our life. And the pivot for any change is keenness to learn and adapting it. As I say, that if you are an oak tree and the wind comes and if you stand still, you will fall down. If you are a Chinese grass, you'll bend and come back. So you have to adapt. I think it's very, very important, adapting. And so yes, fundamentals of leadership have remained strong over the years. The context keeps changing.
Yeah. So I think the keenness to learn and those things you really talk about, and it's very apt overall there as well. But do you think the change which is really happening at this moment in the world, and as it feels like that world is on this steroid of all the changes really taking place, and do you think the leadership style or leadership adaptability is also really changing in the same pace, or is still somewhere to go?
I think aspects of leadership which require different approaches in a different context. Like today, I believe we need to be much more patient to get results and outcomes. It's so much of change happening, instant gratification, instant outcomes. I always believe that this leadership journey is about a test match. It's not a T20. So, you can enjoy the T20, but ultimately there will be ups and downs and kind of stuff. So you have to keep at it. So you have to be more resilient as a person. Accept that this is the way forward. Because change will be constant. In our industry, I can speak, we are seeing change on 3 pivots. One is the geopolitical environment, which is true for everybody. Second is a lot of our work, 60% plus of our work comes from North America. So that is the second pivot in terms of things happening there, in terms of trade and tariffs. And the third is about the technology piece, which is impacting us. And if I reflect on it, Anish, I see that this is a time for us to adapt and move forward. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
Yeah.
So the change which I'm seeing over the years is there were moments when it was nice to do. It was, let's try it out. Today it is, if you don't, you get left behind. So it's more survival. And I think that's the shift which is happening.
Yeah. So, I'm being now a little bit more curious around it. Is that, in our ITC days, we used to talk about on the factory how revolution is really coming, different technology is really coming to make it more productive, efficient, and now fast forward today is AI and which is disrupting everything as well overall. I think the change has remained the constant, as you really mentioned, it has remained the constant. But the overall, I think, I say noise on this quite heightened. So why do you think that has really quite heightened?
2 or 3 reasons. One is, I think, in those days, general communication was less. There was no social media, there were no mobile phones, there was, instant knowledge kind of stuff. So, so that itself, any news anywhere in the globe, within 2 minutes it is across the globe. So you know what's happening real time online. So that makes it much more hype. Second is, I think people's awareness is much more.
Yeah.
Now I'm dealing with a very knowledge workers. What's happening, what's not happening, they are aware. So very clearly that is a thing. I can speak in a factory and I was in a different way of working, and there are people who have lived in that lifestyle, that structure for years, and that was their bread earning capacity. They thought they'll start there and end there. So that was their world. Here it is much more expansive. So they have seen. So that's the second thing which is there. And a third, what I alluded to earlier, is that it is more survival now. I'll give an example, and you speak about ITC days. For years, till it happened in ITC Munger, there's this practice of you retire and your son walks into the company. Okay. And for years, management was trying to stop it, and that happened a couple of after I left, and there's obviously resistance. There was not much of economic activity there. There was not much of opportunities for people. So it was. Management kept trying. It's a nice thing to do something, but in the larger scheme of things, with the scale of ITC, we could have. Yeah, we can afford it. It impacts that business and that unit, but it's not. I think the world has changed different now. If in our current context, if Wipro doesn't pivot itself, this industry became what it is because you could hire talent at scale who was good and who was mobile, and you could move them across the globe, and that's why India became the talent factory for the country. But now if we don't repivot to what's happening, because the industry is on its head, we grew, the scale was our strength, and the scale today may not be the strength going forward. Less is more. So it's more survival now for the industry. So I think that are the three contexts which I would believe is why it is more heightened to answer your question.
Yeah. My also some of the studies I was looking at and some of the researches I was looking at as well. When the change really takes place, also, as leaders, how do you really stay grounded? What do you really do? How do you really listen to people? What's really happening? So you look at the macro scenario in terms of what's really happening, but what's the realities there as well, and not specific to any industry or organization which is really there, but what do you think is that uh, people have the appetite to actually listen and then pivot and do this, or it really is other way around, that because the circumstances are really changing and then we need to do this? So, or is the both the combination really works? And then my little experience working with a few organizations and seeing from the uh, from the distance is that if the combination of the both are already there, then things really move in a much more cohesive way. I mean, I would like to hear your views on this.
Again, if I look at the fundamentals of leadership, when you're managing change, have stood test of time.
Yeah,
You need to be transparent. You need to be respectful. You need to be honest in dealing with that change. I'll give an example of our industry. It's a services business.
Yeah.
There are no products. There is, 60% of the people cost is the P&L of the company. Okay. Any change here means it impacts people. Okay. Now, world around is changing. In the tech world, you've been seeing the last 2-3 years, the tech industry has its own thing of layoffs, this, that, and all. People appreciate and understand that this is the world, what is happening, and it's important. But what differentiates a good organization or a good leadership is how honest and transparent are you about that process? How respectful are you about that process? I've learned over the years, it's not the what often, it's the how.
yeah, yeah,
Because the what people appreciate, because it's not unique to my organization, it's unique to the larger organization. Yeah. But how you do it is very important. And that differentiates. Because ultimately, organizations speak of values, principles, tenets, whatever they call it. It manifests in how leaders behave.
yeah,
That's how it works. Ultimately, the way Anish works with me and I work with Anish is that. And that's how you get followership also.
yeah,
So, in my view, those principles, and that's not only about my learning, Anish, is not only about at work, that has stood test of time, over the years, kind of stuff. And that point you alluded to on humility, I must tell you that, in my view, that's one of the strongest traits of leadership. The law of nature is
yeah. Okay.
that when you climb a mountain, this is like an analogy that if you are going up the hill and going up the org hierarchy, when you climb a mountain, you have to bend down and climb. Because if you stand straight and climb, you will fall down.
Yeah,
And that holds true here also. Because if you're humble, then you have the strength to go and say, I don't know, I need help. Please let me know. And then you are curious because you are saying, I don't know, help me. And if you're curious, then you will learn. And if you learn, then you will change.
yeah.
So that's the cycle, which is the way I see it.
Yeah. I'm digressing a little bit. You talked about the humility. One of the example is that I was speaking to somebody who's a mountaineer, and he talks about is that no peak is too high. And so in a moment I paused and said, okay, explain, what does it really mean? He said that when you climb, you look at is that this particular peak I will reach, and I'll reach there, right? And so I reach there and I feel good about it. But when you reach there, then you see another peak. So then you stay humble, is that you need to really keep going and
That's so
doing
true.
it. So true, right? So that's how it really is leadership style about as well. And you said being core at the student, it really helps overall. So coming back to, I think I'm really getting the sense is that the change and everything is really taking place. It feels like that you're flying the plane, but you're still building it as well, right? While still really building it, and it brings down to and larger organization point of view, or from your personal point of view. How do you really keep up the student part? You really mentioned this, keep up your skill, any of these things really taking place. Any tip you want to really share with some of the youngsters who are listening today? Because typically our span is becoming shorter and shorter. There and
Attention span,
bundle of information. So what do you really do?
So, I'll emphasize the first part in terms of change and being a student. When I was doing my management, and that was centuries ago, you know, there used to be a computer room with like a temple. You used to take off your shoes and go inside that place.
Yeah.
And today we are so used to technology. So if I keep just what all has happened, if we had not kept pace with it, and now what in our industries is much more, we have just been left behind. And you build respect as a leader, not by hierarchy, but by knowledge and expertise.
Yeah.
How is that person adding value to me? Gone are the days that position, title, all these make a difference.
Yeah. So true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like we propose that there is no hierarchy in Wipro, and we say that it's a flat organization, but truly people will look up to you if you are able to help them in their journey. So now coming back on how do we do it? No, I have learned that this is not a module you can go for, or this is not a leadership development program, or this is not a change thing which I'm doing. It's every day. It's every day which is there. I'm an HR professional, but today in my role, it is extremely important for me to understand the P&L of the organization.
Yeah.
I'm often in front of financial analysts, I'm in front of people, because anything we do from a people standpoint impacts company's profitability or market value and stuff like that. Be it on hiring, exiting, growing, adding people, whatever. And I have to learn this is important, because there are people sitting and crunching numbers and they want to know from you what is happening, and you're often live on, discussing with these people. Now, this is not a skill which you can come up in some course. It's just being curious, sitting in these reviews, understanding it, going and asking a colleague, help me understand this, what does it mean, getting something more, and you then pick it up over a period of time. So it is an everyday action. It's like you build a culture, as you spoke about, not by doing something as a program. Every day, the way you behave every day, the way you react every day, the things you speak, those build over a period of time. Similarly, learning is also like that.
Yeah. So look, I remember very fondly during our ITC days, and that time, one of the era was that you used to manage all the factories. You were the head of HR for all the factories. But when you used to walk into the office, you used to look at the sales number. What was the sales number yesterday, and then look at that, and then and I remember that very fondly. And then obviously, it is the P&L you're talking about.
And functionally, I am a firm believer HR is a business enabler.
Yeah, yeah.
We can make a big difference. I am a believer that ultimately any business is a people business. People make the difference.
Yeah. So I'm being curious also, and I've seen this very closely, but still for larger audience, I want to hear is that how do you really pass on some of these nuggets, some of the day-to-day behavior to your next in line, you're building your succession or building the more leaders. There are so many of your reportees are doing wonderful jobs in different companies. How do you really do that?
I have realized over the years that as leaders, you live in glass houses.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you say, whatever you do, how you do it, it gets discussed, analyzed on a day-to-day basis. Having had the privilege of working or seeing Mr. Premji very closely, a lot of his values are today part of your values. In terms of being frugal, being on integrity, on making sure being respectful. That's become ingrained. That's become your personal values kind of stuff. So leaders look at leaders and start behaving and doing things and leaders.
Yeah.
So as leaders, we have to do always the right thing. And then people pick it up because they see it. I remember, I tell people, we could be very cost conscious, cost focused. But the organization will stand behind you if there's a medical emergency. No ask. So these are values of the organization. Speak of COVID, which we had cut down everything and all that. We said we'll continue to invest in training. Those are values. I think those are things now everybody understands and sees that, and they start behaving. A lot of who we are got shaped up in the organization in which we worked. So I think those what makes the difference.
Yeah. There's a famous saying is that, the way you do one thing, you do everything. And that's what really defines
exactly.
in terms of the behavior, and then people start really
So true.
looking at it. Right?
I like this. The way one thing does everything. That's true.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, my anecdote in this is that if ever you want to, this is my experiment, if ever you want to experiment with anybody to test it, and I've been, I would say, partially successful, you look at that person wallet or bag, and the way it is really organized, that's how the person is also in life. So it's a very simple example, but the way you do one thing, you do everything.
True. I know.
Yeah. So that's the This question must have been asked 1,000 times, and everybody is talking about what will happen with this AI. What will be the impact on human resources?
So if you look at history, whenever new technology has come,
Yeah.
okay, it has only multiplied and made it better. I remember mid-90s when the mobiles came, one call was 16 rupees incoming and you had to pay for outgoing.
That's
right. We used to say this is not going to be of any use. Today, people can't imagine a life without a phone, and at every level of the system. So technology enables you to do more of that. I think AI will bring in a lot of opportunities for all of us. It'll improve the quality of work which we are doing. A lot of repetitive, mundane work the systems, technology will help you do that. If you look at the world, I think we are short-staffed on engineers, short-staffed on doctors, short-staffed on nurses, globally across. And I'm just giving you one example. And this can clearly help us bridge that gap. So it can serve a lot of world problems. It can really create new things for people and improve the general quality of life. So I think that will happen. The change will be a bit painful because you go through a curve and then you come up. But I am a firm believer that this is opening up new eyes and new things for us.
Yeah, yeah. So you talked about the experiences, and then when you, let's say, bring you in the hat of CHRO, and when you look at the employee experience overall in the organization, right from pre-boarding, onboarding, then in the organization really look at it, some of these things which are already there. What is that which is really changing today rapidly, or it has remained core the same?
So, what is changing rapidly is that two or three things. One is, if I look at the entire life cycle from hire to retire, in every part, there's a huge adoption of technology to make it faster, cheaper, and better. So that's happening across, and I'll give you some examples around that. Second, what is happening is that people are becoming, impacts on employer branding are more.
Yeah.
Because opportunities are more. How you onboard people, how you make sure they understand the organization, how they experience the process of hiring, how smooth I think these leave a long impact on large organizations, and so I think that's important. And third is that good employee experience across has a direct correlation to better customer experience,
Of course.
which has a better experience to companies' value creation. So it is very hard linked. It is not some gooey stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, it is very hard linked. And in a business like ours, which is a B2B business, services business, where people build the brand and people make an impression on the clients, it is much more critical. A happy employee, and it might be sounding cliched, but happy employee can make a better, experience with the client. So it is imperative right now. Let me give you some examples of on both. On the technology front, we have seen two things which are coming up. So we have I'll give you an example for Wipro. We are 240,000 employees, around 60 countries across the globe. We have shared services. We take care of 24/7, take care of employee issues, queries, payroll, reimbursements, medical, benefits, pension, you name it, across the globe. And we said that there's a lot of scope for us because it's all a lot of routine, standardized work to induct technology in these places. Starting from onboarding, hiring, background verification, onboarding people, hiring process, payroll, all those kind of reimbursements, kind of.
Sure.
And the basic learning I had in this thing is that, so we said let's adopt technology. Before adopting technology, we looked at process. And we realized that our processes need to get simplified.
Yeah.
Before we put a layer of technology on top of it. And today, we have been able to, which is an outcome, but I'll still share that in our shared services, in the last 27 months, we have reduced our headcount by 42%. We have exactly, that's the payroll headcount data. What is good news is, it's not the money or the impact. I think it's better employee experience, higher NPS, real-time responses, more standardized kind of stuff, declutter. And if I look at this productivity and things like that, in my view, 60% is more process changes and 40% is technology.
Yeah.
So the fundamental thing which I want to tell everybody is that
employee experience you talked about, and I think, and I'm expressing in a different way, right? Organizations have different stakeholders. You have employees, you have shareholders, you have customers, right? And largely these are three. And then of course the community is also there as well. If you really think that way, is that customers want best quality, best services in least cost. shareholder wants the best return on the investment. Actually, employees are the only one who wants organization to be successful. And then the employee experience really comes in. And I'm really building on your point there, is that when employee experience becomes better, and then the discretionary effort really starts really coming, and there is a major impact overall on organization really create. And then you talk about NPS and the value creation and other things as well. So that's another way of really
No, absolutely.
yeah. So
Very,
that's
very true. Very true.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
very true.
Do you think HR leaders today need, you already mentioned, stronger commercial and business understanding than ever before?
100%. Our ability to make an impact is far more if we understand the business in which we operate.
Yeah.
If we understand what do we do with our clients, if we understand what does it mean, I can go and say, I have to do a merit salary increase for people, and I've done a benchmark, and traditionally we are X and somebody is minus X, so we need to pay, kind of 20% kind of stuff. But if I don't have a more holistic, that what is the impact, how the margin impact will be there, what will be the impact on this thing, how will the P&L impact it, I think it's a half-baked discussion. And sometimes our ability to take very business calls, become much easier. So I am a firm believer that if you don't understand the business, if you don't understand, and finance is the business language of the business, if you don't understand how the balance sheet, you will not be able to make an impact. What are the levers which help you in growth, cost, investments? Very, very critical.
Yeah. So true. And even typically, whether organization or personal life, it has to really come from within. I'm getting intrigued because often you go to the conferences and you look at this, you hear many of the leaders as well, but very seldomly really hear the financial number or financial language in the conferences from HR leaders. And maybe I'm generalizing it there as well. So, and very few set of leaders like you who really talk about commercial acumen so passionately.
I'm a firm believer, and I've learned it, that if I am on the table, if I am been able to do a discussion, with a client, with a board member, is because you understand the business. And my thing to every HR leader would be that this is hard stuff, and we need to link it back to outcomes.
Okay. Maybe I'm moving to the next section. What gives you maybe one optimism you want to share to business leaders, to HR leaders about the world will be?
I think technology. I'm very, very optimistic. This technology, what has changes happened, and they are saying, it is like as powerful as electricity coming in, or steam engine coming in, or internet coming in, and the AI era. I'm very optimistic. It will bring up huge opportunities for the world, to make a big difference in everything which we do.
It's such a coincidence is that we often say that troika of 3 T's will work very well, which is talent, human, technology, because that will give you reach, scale, and then anything you really do, it has to have some positive impact, which is transformation. So technology, talent, technology, transformation,
So
which
true.
is we always talk about it.
It's very true. This is the troika which will
that'll
repivot the organ. But I'm very optimistic about the technology and what it can offer us in the years ahead.
And if I flip it, is that what is the one thing we need to be cautious about?
I think the cautiousness is about our ability to anticipate, sense, and respond to this change.
And what should we do?
I'm saying sometimes it is like this too shall pass. I have seen too many of these. In large enterprises, it will take 10, 15 years to make a difference. Some parts of it may be true, but going in premise has to be that we are paranoid and how do we adapt change. Again, another big learning has been, Anish, that as leaders, we have to be paranoid about changes happening. Okay, and good organizations, in the best of times, create a burning platform.
Yeah.
And that's only pivots them to do better and better. Okay, good organizations, most profitable, highest market cap, are the most frugal. They will worry about spending $10. They will not worry about investing $100 million where it is required.
Yeah.
I think that's what is important. So we need to be very careful that we don't get a bit of a complacent about this change coming to us.
So in a way, I'm really getting is that if the changes will really take place, organization will change, but eventually the being hungry, I mean, there's a being student, being humble, and also really adapting to really change really becomes quite important. And also especially for the HR professional or any of the leaders as well, understanding the business acumen, then the P&L understanding, because when you really learn more, then that's what really it helps a lot, right? So that's
I'll tell you, over the years, whenever changes happen, it has to come from within. No external force. It can be a catalyst. But ultimately, it has to come from within that, this is important for me. And as human beings, once we believe it's important, we make it happen. The trigger has to come from within about...
Yeah. So true. And even typically, whether organization or personal life, it has to really come from within. Which is there. Maybe quick few questions,
Sure.
and then more like a quick fire is there. And I think this is amazing, which is the story of Wipro, a journey from 1945, which is really, so one word you have to really say about Wipro.
Outstanding institution.
Okay, I'm going to put you for all three. So ITC.
Again, my first organization, outstanding organization. I'm saying what I learned there, I'm using it here. My friend circle, what in my formative years of my career, is now my personal friends. So that's what we build there. So I think that's what keeps it going.
Yeah. We have seen some wonderful time there. So yes, indeed, very fond memories there. And G.
I learned scale, speed, working in absolute ambiguity. That was a big learning there. Global, adapting, I think those are the big learnings there.
And one organization, maybe you've not really worked, but you're seeing very closely, us, all things people. What do you want to tell us?
I think the resilience, the way you guys have started, few of you came together, thought it's important. Journey has not been, no entrepreneurial journey is like a smooth ride, kind of stuff. But the conviction that what we are doing And as I see the time passing by, it's only becoming better and better. So my best wishes to you, and I'll see you doing even bigger and bigger.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Any passing remark you like to give it to audience?
The world is changing. Be part of this change, and the change starts with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been wonderful to have you on this podcast, and I think audience will learn immensely from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anish. Thank you for having me over. Thank you.